the time. Your gateway to the world. AFR. American Freedom Radio. Give it to them.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
It is October 21, 2013. Hope you are having a fantastic day and had a lovely weekend. Beautiful fall going on here right now, at least for Heather and I and those in the boardroom, the sound room in Austin. So, yeah, I love this time of year. So thank you all for joining us here tonight. Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. As many of you know, we normally are joined by Heather Rhoades, our resident garden expert here on the first Tuesday of the month. But we had took a little bit of time off here at the station. So this will be the last we fit her in here in the third week because we cannot miss her information. It's very important to know, how to feed ourselves and, ways around the limitations that we think we might have. So, woohoo! And even though it's fall, doesn't mean that gardening is over. As many of you know, it is a full-time job. Heather Rhoades, she is located in the suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, and has been gardening for most of her life. She's probably the only chick in the world with a 17 or 18 or so year old citrus tree growing in a container, gets her own oranges in Ohio. She is the operator and owner of the gardening site gardeningknowhow.com, where her and other experts help answer your questions on various gardening topics. That's gardeningknowhow.com. If for some reason you don't find what you're looking for, just send them a message, and they can answer anything from edible gardens to house plants, perennials, annuals, composting, pest care, all of that fun stuff, even lawn care. So it's so good to have you here tonight. I'm sorry we missed you a couple weeks ago. I was kind of suffering withdrawals myself. We need our Heather here, but how the heck are you doing this beautiful October?
I'm good. Like I said, we have managed to avoid the dreaded frost. So we're still going strong here in Cleveland as far as gardening goes.
Yay! So what do you got in your garden right now?
Well, I've got my Swiss chard is doing well. The kale is doing well. I'm still harvesting some of my herbs. I brought in my bay tree yesterday. So that got a judicious pruning, and everybody I know now has fresh bay leaves. So
nice.
I'm getting to the point with the bay tree where I could probably, open up a small stall at a farmer's market and sell bay leaves.
Excellent.
I had I probably had about 2 pounds of leaves that came off of that tree.
Wow. Or you could package them up and sell them on your website.
It's one of those things. It's just not enough for me to. I might open a little booth locally, but doing the e-com thing for it, because it's not something I can produce year round. It's just true. This time of year when the tree comes in, and this particular time, this is the first time it was so tall it touched the ceiling of my living room.
Wow, so, your bay tree is that big?
Yeah, well, it's not anymore. I had to cut it down by about a third to fit it in my living room. But yeah, it gets that tall. I was really surprised because when it's outside, you don't realize how tall it is, and then you bring it in and it's brushing the ceiling, and you're like, needs the pruning. So
wow, and you have those high ceilings out there in Ohio. I'm noticing with the pictures you're sending me. So that must be enormous. How lovely.
But yeah, so it's doing well. It's fun.
Excellent. Okay, well, I know, this time of year, people think, oh, well, it's October, no more work in the garden, and I don't know. I spent the weekend in mine, and there's, more work than ever, right? Summer's easy. Just harvest some stuff, eat it, and now it's now the work begins.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta clean everything up, and you gotta save what you have left, and It's all going to happen super quick, so not too much time left.
Yeah. So you haven't been having a frost yet. So that's awesome. What have you pulled in like your warm crops, your tomatoes, peppers, ripped all those out, or are they still producing for you?
They're pretty much done. I still do have a cherry tomato that's doing pretty well for me, but for the most part, the tomatoes and peppers are done. I had some cabbage out, but the slugs got to it, so they aren't doing very well. Swiss chard looks beautiful. The kale looks beautiful. Right now, I've been focusing on harvesting all of my herbs and getting them put up for the winter, and and cleaning up the garden, getting all that debris out, and thinking about what sort of amendments I want to throw on the soil before the first snow comes.
Okay, now, I know people think that when the snow comes or when the frost comes, we can't really grow anything anymore. So what's the truth about that? What could we be planting right now?
Well, this is a perfect time of year to put in your garlic.
Yeah, baby.
Garlic, and you can harvest that in the spring. And then, not too late to get some horseradish in the ground.
Ooh, that would be fun. Is that kind of like growing ginger?
Yeah, except it's much more hardy.
Oh, okay.
So I have, and it's also it can become invasive, so you do have to be careful with it. It has become invasive in my yard. I don't mind because we dig it up, but yeah, it can escape pretty easily. So,
okay. I've never grown horseradish before. What if I wanted to go grow some now? Could I just go to the store and buy some and cut off little pieces?
You can go to the store if you know of a store that's selling horseradish root. You can buy that horseradish root, bury it in the ground, and then come spring you'll be ready to harvest, and you'll leave just a little bit of the root in there for the next year. So.
Nice.
Typically, once it's established, there's no getting rid of it. It's like mint.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Huh. And do they produce pretty flowers like ginger, or how does that work?
No, they have the leaves. They look like a weed, and I'm trying to think of which weed it looks like, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But it looks pretty weedy. We'll put it that way. It looks like something you want to pull out of your garden. And you just let it grow, and it gets these big roots. You dig them up in the spring. It's always a reminder for me because it's around Passover, and it's an herb. It's the bitter herb that they use during Passover. So it's a reminder of when you're supposed to pick your horseradish, or actually dig up your horseradish.
So would the foliage start to get brown and die or wilt, like maybe potatoes or garlic or something? Oh, so how do you know that it's really ready?
It's just that time. It's just that time of year. It's the springtime. It's a perennial root, so it's just something you put in the ground. You probably want to give it a year to establish. So you probably don't want to harvest it that first year. So if you plant it this fall, you don't want to harvest it this next spring. You'll harvest it the spring after, and after that, there'll be no problem with harvesting it.
Okay. So kind of like ginger. Ginger needs a good couple years to get going, or asparagus.
Right. So once it's established, it differs from ginger, and ginger needs warm weather.
Yeah.
And horseradish can actually take some pretty cold temperatures. So, but yeah, you harvest it. One thing that you do have to keep in mind when you harvest your horseradish, when you process it, it tells you to add vinegar to it to keep it stable. You actually want to wait a little bit, maybe a day or so before you add the vinegar, because the vinegar actually stops the heating process.
We want to add vinegar where?
Well, you would when you process it, you grind it all up. When you pick horseradish, it does not have that heat that horseradish is known for.
Okay.
It gets that heat because much like onions, when you're chopping it or you're grinding it or something like that, it's breaking down the cell walls, and there's two different chemicals in different cells that combine to create that heat.
Oh, okay. So the vinegar is what we would use to preserve it.
Well, the vinegar stops that process. And we get this question a lot. This is why I'm bringing it up, because we get this question a lot. We say, why isn't my horseradish hot? And the reason isn't that your horseradish isn't hot. It's just that you added the vinegar to the process too early. So, like I said, it's just a question we get a lot. So, when people are harvesting their horseradish. So it's something to keep in mind. But plant it now. You may be able to harvest a little bit in the spring. Probably need to have 2 years. But once you get it established, there's no getting rid of it. And you'll get these nice big roots and get some really... when you grow your own horseradish, it's the heat level is on the level with wasabi, which is also horseradish.
Yeah.
But it's not like
Isn't
the horseradish.
It just horseradish mixed with avocado? The wasabi?
No. Actually, wasabi is an actual type of horseradish.
Oh.
For many years, some of the stuff that's sold on the shelves is avocado mixed with the horseradish that we have here.
Okay.
But a true wasabi is a horseradish. They need a very particular type of growing environment. They commonly grow by the sides of rivers. So it's actually it's a type of horseradish, but that type of heat that you would find in a wasabi that hits the back of your nose sort of heat, you can actually get that from a horseradish grown in your own garden if you process it correctly.
Okay. All right. I always wondered how the wasabi, how they were able to keep it green. If there was avocado in it, it's like, wait a minute, as soon as I cut an avocado, it's brown. But, okay, so it is its own root then, true wasabi. Yes,
it's true wasabi is typically what we see in America is not true wasabi, so...
Well, that is really cool to know. Thanks. And you know me, I'm always into trying new things, so I might have to work on getting some horseradish and see what happens next spring, huh?
Yeah, it's like I said, if you can find it, I know that the local farmers market where I live, they have horseradish root. You can break it off, plant it in the ground. You just need a little chunk, and you'll get yourself a horseradish plant, and then if you're not careful, you'll have a whole horseradish patch.
So let's say I'm doing a container that's about maybe 2 foot by 2 foot and about 2 feet deep. How many little pieces, how many little cuttings would I want to put in there to fill that up by, not next spring, but the spring after?
I would do one, and probably that container will be too small.
Wow!
They
really?
have an enormous root. The root can go down 3 and 4 feet.
Okay.
So, they have a giant taproot. So, it's one of those things. It's really best to plant it in the ground because it can and will break any pot that it's in.
Wow.
But on the same token, you really do want to make sure that you plant it in a open-ended or open-bottom container in the ground because it will spread quite rapidly.
Okay.
So,
do they like sun or shade?
Sun. They do very well in the sun.
Ah, dang. I'm still looking for more stuff to put in my shade. Because I have limited sun.
As aggressive as they are, you could probably put it in the shade and you still would get a pretty good harvest. So.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Well, cool. I'm excited to try something new. Horseradish it is. Well, you know what? I wanted to talk with you about, you mentioned garlic, and now's a good time to get it in the ground. What do you think about planting potatoes in the fall?
It depends on where you live.
Mm-hmm.
If your ground freezes solid, you cannot plant potatoes in the fall. If your ground does not freeze solid during the winter, you can try planting potatoes. The problem you're going to run into is, wilts and rots, just because winter soil does tend to be a little bit cooler and a little bit wetter. And these are environments that are conducive to those problems.
Mm-hmm.
So it's certainly worth a try if you live in an area that doesn't freeze hard.
Mm-hmm.
I live in an area that freezes hard, so there's no way potato tuber will make it through the winter.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a lot of gardening. It's worth a try as long as you're not going to be getting frozen ground.
Yeah. I've had some accidents that we've probably talked about here in the past where I left potatoes in the ground and, come spring, it's like, wow, what's that? How did I get these potatoes here? So I'm thinking that our winter is usually warm enough, I guess. We don't have too many hard freezes, so I'm taking the risk myself. I don't really, it's worth it to me because, if we do have one of those once every couple decades super hard freezes here, big deal. I could always replant again in the spring.
That's what do you lose? So you might as well try it.
Yeah. It just, I don't know, come out bigger and stuff that way. Although I do love the cute little baby new potatoes. They're just so sweet and delightful, but nothing wrong with trying to get a jump on it here and there. Do you know off the top of your head traditionally what zone, the experts would say that, for you to be able to plant in the fall?
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
No rules. No rules. No taboo topics. No taboo topics. No fear of doom. No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Our special guest tonight, Heather Rhoades of GardeningKnowHow.com. And if you're tuning in saying, what? It's too late in the month. Yes, she's normally the first Tuesday of the month, regular guest, and we will be back to that regular schedule here coming up in November. So we can't miss out on our garden just because I might miss a couple shows here and there. It doesn't mean we can miss out on the information. So, if you have any questions or comments tonight, please feel free to give us a call at 218-339-8525. That's 218-339-8525. And if you'd like to join us in the text chat, that's over at souljourneysradio.com. Always lots of fun going on over there. So, actually, we left off on potatoes. Of course, Heather, the most important question before we can really get going on here. And again, you have to forgive him because he is a newfie, and you know how newfies are. But, Heather, the big question, what are you wearing?
You did luck today. I was actually thinking this when I was putting my headset on tonight.
She's naked!
I am wearing yoga pants and a tank top. So,
oh, hell yeah. All right, score!
a blue tank top and a gray set of yoga pants. So.
Ooh, I think those are his favorite colors, too. All right, so now we can listen. I forgot to check with him the magic words of the day, and in case you've missed those previous shows, but this is how you get you guys to listen. You and thank you, Casey and Noelle, for pointing this out. But they've been replacing different words we say with words of their choosing. I did not find out what the magic words are yet. But when we do, I'll let you all know. So, Casey and Noelle, you're a little bit behind today. So, all right, now that we know you're wearing hot yoga pants and light blue tank top, we can continue talking about potatoes, or was that melons?
No, we're on potatoes. I was saying my melons are more like pears. So
mine are like eggplant. We got eggplant year round here. Okay, so yeah, the potatoes. So what do the experts say that the cutoff is as far as zoning information?
Well, you can definitely, in zones 8 or higher, so 8, 9, 10, you can definitely do potatoes year round. You can actually, in 8, 9, and 10, you could probably plant midsummer and get a fall harvest reliably.
Yeah.
6 and 7, it's a crapshoot. You know, you were talking earlier, you know, you likely won't get a hard frost or hard freeze, but you can't be 100% sure of that in those zones.
Mm-hmm.
So, worth it to try, yes. You know, I certainly, if I was one zone higher, because I'm in zone 5 myself, if I was in zone 6, I would certainly give it a shot. Just don't get too disappointed if you get that, you know, once every 3 or 4 years hard freeze that kills off your potato seedlings.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought up planting 2 seasons, because this year, you know, I think they were ready like around June, I think, if I remember correctly. And I'm thinking, why can't I just plant more now and pick them up in, say, October? And,
you know, you can certainly do that. I could have done that this year as well. But typically in Cleveland, we don't see warm weather like this into October. So it's one of those things. It's like tomatoes. When we talk about tomatoes in the springtime, you know, certainly you can plant them out in late April and cross your fingers that you're not going to get a late frost. But the same sort of thing. You can plant them out in July and then hope that in October you don't get an early frost that kills them off.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like investing. You know, they tell you to take a risk assessment. How much risk are you willing to take? Same thing with your gardens. How much risk are you willing to take for the payoff? So
definitely. Well, you know, and we also, as you pointed out here multiple times, we cannot rush Mother Nature. And this year was a really good lesson in patience for me, because this was the first time I had to wait until May, like the 2nd or 3rd week maybe of May, to put my little tomato seedlings out. And it was torture because my neighbors and everyone around me put them out in March. You know, we have that one 70-degree day, or maybe even 80 degrees. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to be picking tomatoes, you know, in May. And which I've had those years where I was able to do that. But this year, nope. So it was, you know, but what do they say? Slow and steady wins the race. So I learned a tremendous lesson in patience this year. And, you know, so I wasn't picking tomatoes in May, but they ended up producing more than anyone I know, because I didn't force it. Like, you know, even literally, like my next door neighbors, they had their stuff out 2 months before me and didn't get their first tomatoes till even after me. And really, I mean, poor things. They probably maybe only got like a dozen total this year. It like totally stunted their growth. Their plants never made it taller than 2 feet. So, yeah, I know we get excited and we want to, you know, get our stuff out there, but, you know, we're not God.
Right. Yeah.
If it's snowing in May, you know, take a hint and, you know, wait a little bit, right?
Right. Right. No, I mean, you can push the envelope, and there's nothing wrong with pushing the envelope. It's just realize that there's, like I said, risk assessment. do you want to push the envelope and maybe end up with plants that are stunted and don't produce as well? That's fine, as long as you're willing to take that risk.
Yeah. Another lesson we learned this year, you talked about, and this was after all of the situation happened with the woodchuck who came in July and tore apart all of my vines. And, of course, being July, it was too late to even go to Walmart or Home Depot or any of the big box stores to get starters because they quit selling them in July. So I'm like, oh, no, what do I do? So I just dropped a bunch of seeds, prayed, I hoped for the best. And 2 weeks later, I literally had full-grown cucumbers. So what's the reasoning on that? You explained that there was maybe like an old wives' tale saying that the later the better for those particular plants?
Well, with cucumbers, I have heard a lot of people say that you're better off planting cucumbers really late because first of all, it misses the window where cucumber beetles are reproducing, mating. And that's typically when they're going to attack your cucumbers. I think most people can say that they've planted cucumbers before, and they get that first cucumber, and then the plant mysteriously dies.
Yeah, people say that all the time.
And that's actually you were attacked by cucumber beetles. They hit the plant when the plant is in flower, and they lay their eggs and all that stuff. And then about the time that you get your first fruit off the plant is when the plant succumbs to that blight. So if you actually plant it later, about the time that you would typically get your first cucumber fruit, if you plant your cucumbers at that time, you completely miss that window and the cucumber beetles are gone. And you get healthy plants that don't succumb. And it's just one of those sort of weird, quirky things. Plus, when the weather is warmer, plants do grow faster. Particularly if they haven't been exposed to cold weather. It's almost like they're like, oh, I gotta catch up. So, all of those things coming together can produce a healthy plant that you've planted late in the season.
Okay. Well, I thought that was really cool. I don't know if I actually want to wait till the middle of July.
It is hard. Yeah, it is hard to do that.
But it was a really cool experience, Well, stories to tell the grandchildren.
with gardening, I mean, you certainly, that's the nice thing about gardening. You can plant one tomato plant mid-April and then wait till, at least here in Cleveland, Memorial Day to plant the rest of them.
Yeah.
And if that one plant dies, then, no big deal. Same with cucumbers. You can plant them early and then plant another batch in July and still end up with the best of both worlds.
Yeah, try to get a little. This year was, I shared with you some of the tomatoes that you inspired me to buy. And it was really neat because they were all blooming at different times. I just showed you one of my tomato plants that's barely blooming now, and, it's a colder weather variety, and it's, we're the end of October, and it looks like it's the middle of summer. Perfectly green, beautiful blossoms, beautiful tomatoes, hasn't been affected by anything. So, I don't know, maybe we can talk about some colder weather variety tomatoes that you know of for anyone else that would like to try, planting them all in succession for next season. But before we start talking about tomatoes, here's a question in the chat in regards to potatoes. They were asking, is eating the skin of the potato nutritional?
It actually is.
Nutritious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it actually is. The potato skin does hold a lot of the nutrients and minerals that we need that are helpful to us. I never peel my potatoes when I make mashed potatoes or something like that.
Heck no, that's delicious.
Just, get them right in there, and it's good for you. Green skin potatoes, technically there is some truth to that the green skins are do have some toxins in them.
I've heard that. Is that really true, though?
It's if you're just looking at a little bit of green on a potato, it's not going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to eat like a whole stack of green skinned tomato or potatoes, yes, it could be a problem. But yeah, if you're just looking at one or two, I don't think people realize how much we eat actually does have a small amount of toxins in it. And I'm talking natural toxins, not chemical, not, sprayed on by your local farmer type toxins. But, peach pits, those contain toxins. Apple seeds contain cyanide. This is just part of Mother Nature.
Yeah.
So our bodies are perfectly capable of handling low levels of toxins. So a little bit of green on your potato skins is not going to harm you. Just don't, make a habit of it or eat a whole big pile of
Just
food.
eat only apple seeds or only green skin potatoes.
Right, yeah.
I actually know people, they eat the entire apple, the core, they chew up the seeds and everything. And, when I found out they weren't as retarded as me, I decided I used to cut out the seeds and stuff when I would juice my apples. And for about the last year, I've been juicing them too. And I don't believe I have any less brain cells than I did last year.
I would say most of that stuff, if it was having an adverse effect, you would have a physical reaction to it. Cyanide, which is what's in apple seeds, that makes you really, really sick.
Yeah, you would know.
Right. It's not like, it's not like it's just doing silent damage to you. That stuff's going to make you physically ill if it's doing damage to you.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry too much about the green skins on potatoes. And certainly I would recommend eating potato skins. I know some people don't like them, but there are ways to cook them so that they're not as crunchy or as I personally love them.
I like crunchy.
I love nothing better than take olive oil and put it all over the potato, put it in the oven so that the skin comes out extra crunchy.
Oh, man. Yep. Olive oil, garlic, ooh, bring it on. Okay. Well, you reminded me, I did actually receive a question yesterday about potato greens. And I know, of course, most people will tell you, oh, it's a deadly nightshade, don't touch it. But then you read another website and they're like, well, you can have the greens of the sweet potato, but not, a yellow potato.
Sweet potato is not a nightshade. So, yeah, you cannot eat the greens of a potato plant. You cannot eat the fruit of a potato plant either. It looks a lot like a tomato, but you still can't eat it. As a matter of fact, tomato plants, same thing. You cannot eat the greens. And that's why, 150 years ago, the only thing there were people in the United States used to, 200 years ago, thought that tomatoes were poisonous. It's because their leaves are poisonous. They are highly toxic.
Okay.
And this is also when people tell me, oh, I don't want anything poisonous growing in my garden. Well, most things you grow in your garden are going to be poisonous on some level.
Yeah, to someone. I haven't eaten any potato or tomato greens, so I can't actually verify through experience that any of this is true or not, but I'm sure there is a lot of truth or it wouldn't be out there, right? I don't know. Maybe I should just try one and report back and, oh wait, and then I might be dead and we won't have a show. All right, hang on everyone. We got a break here, but we will be right back. SoulJourneysRadio.com.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
Yo, what's up? Check this out.
The voice of the revolution. American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Just get in there and try it, right? I mean, we could talk about gardening till we're blue in the face. We could read every single gardening book or site known to man, but the true knowledge comes from experience. So just get out and get it done. And, we left off, I was being a little bit silly, talking about tomato greens or potato greens. I haven't eaten them yet, obviously, because I'm probably scared over everything I've heard, but there's definitely some truth to it, because I notice that when I'm reaching in, my tomato jungle, sometimes it actually irritates my skin. And I know you've posted a couple articles on your site, tomato plant allergies and how to treat tomato rashes in the garden. I've also heard that from other gardeners. And when they used to tell me that, I would think, oh, well, what are you spraying on your plant, right? But I don't spray anything on my tomato plants, and that happened. So I don't know. I guess, again, maybe, it's like everything that they call poisonous, though. There's some type of use for it somewhere. I just don't know what it is. Now, okay, so you're saying with the sweet potato greens, they're not actual nightshades, so that's why it's okay to eat and juice the sweet potato greens or foliage, but not yellow or brown or white potato or red potatoes?
Yeah, they're in they are not, we call them potatoes, but they're actually not a potato. They're actually in the morning glory family. And if you ever look at the leaves of a sweet potato, it looks a lot like morning glory leaves. So I'm not quite sure why they're saying it's okay to juice the leaves of sweet potatoes. I just knew that they were in different families, because I wouldn't recommend juicing morning glory either. So I would research that, but I do know that sweet potatoes are not in the same family as a traditional potato. So
okay. Yep, haven't done that yet either. But let me ask you this as far as nightshade goes. I mean, isn't tobacco a nightshade?
Tobacco is a nightshade, yes.
I've never, I can reach into my tobacco plant, pet, kiss, hug, whatever, the leaves, the plants itself, and it doesn't irritate me at all.
Yeah, you probably, you're going to have different levels, first of all, of irritants in plants. And you wouldn't want to eat your tobacco leaves either.
I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah,
you
don't want
to smoke it.
It's actually, smoking it is fine. It's actually, tobacco has a high level of toxins in the leaves, and it can actually be used if you, dry it out and soak it. You can actually use it as a pesticide, an organic pesticide. So,
yeah.
It's not something that you want to consume in your body, but while they're all in the nightshade family, they're all, it's kind of like your own family, think about your own.
Yeah.
You're all related, but there's different levels of different things.
Yeah, well, I'm all about family pesticides. was a beautiful analogy there, Heather.
Well, there are just some things, there's some parts of the
like
family that are okay, and there's some, because I mean, like Deadly Nightshade.
Some tolerable, some will prick you and give you a rash, some will make you puke. I see Deadly Nightshade here in my garden as a weed, and I often, if I see it in a friend's garden, I will tell them, especially if they have children, I'll tell them to pull it out because it's a very pretty plant. It's very beautiful, and it produces these lovely little berries that just look so delicious. And we can't do anything with them. Bummer.
Yeah, you can't do anything with them, and when you have children, it's very difficult to explain to them that lovely looking berry is highly toxic. And then we look at, so that's a deadly nightshade. So that's the fruit of a deadly nightshade is highly toxic. But then we eat tomatoes, which are in the same family, and it's a fruit of and it's perfectly fine. Or a potato plant, the potato fruit isn't probably going to kill you, but it's going to make you pretty sick. So, they're related, but that doesn't mean that they don't have differing levels of toxins in different places.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing you brought up, morning glories and the leaves. For 6 years, I've been growing the morning glories with the beautiful heart-shaped leaves, but they also have morning glories with, kind of ivy or potato-shaped leaves.
Yep.
What's the difference?
It's just different things. I mean, you can actually, like we were just talking about tomatoes, you can buy potato leaf tomatoes, which it's a tomato plant with the leaves that look like potato leaves. And this is the same sort of thing with morning glory. It's just genetics.
Okay.
It's the same reason that we have, pet dogs that go from anywhere will fit into a teacup to, the size of a small horse. Yeah. They're all the same breed, or they're all dogs. It's just that breeding has produced different shapes and sizes. And the same thing happens with all of our plants in the garden. Ever since, we had that wonderful experiment with sweet peas, we have figured out that we can manipulate our gardening world, and we have done so very successfully for hundreds of years. It's bringing up, we have that story of, carrots are not supposed to be orange, tomatoes are not supposed to be red. Carrots should be purple, and they, because of marketing reasons, they bred them as orange. Tomatoes should be yellow, they should not be red, but for marketing reasons. And this was not marketing reasons as in the past 100 years. This was, 300 years ago.
Yeah.
So.
It's so amazing, Mother Nature. Oh, my gosh. You brought up purple carrots. I had the best, rainbow carrots we got at the organic market. Well, an hour away. But they were, purple and, deep red and yellow and orange and, I don't know, kind of tie-dye and stuff. And, wow, they were absolutely beautiful. So, yeah, I'm glad that you're bringing up the true, vegetables as they were, because they actually exist, people. If you keep looking, you could actually find them if you're not growing your own. Of course, they're not going to be in our traditional grocery stores.
Right. That's what you see in a grocery store. It was bred that way.
It's clone food.
It wasn't even
will all be the same, right?
It was bred. They were bred for very specific marketing reasons. And we've talked about, tomatoes 300 years ago were bred to be red so that they could sell them as sex helpers.
Yeah, tie-dye tomatoes on the chat. Yeah, there's tie-dye tomatoes. Go look at my videos and
tie-dye tomatoes.
Oh man.
The tomatoes
rock.
The fruits and vegetables you see in your garden or in your local grocery store are there for specific marketing reasons, and they have nothing to do with flavor, taste, or texture. They have to do with shippability, their ability to stay fresh. There are, in the United States alone, there are literally 2,000 different varieties of apples. How many apples do you see in your grocery store?
God, when I see 5, I get confused.
Yeah.
I'm like, can I just have a red apple, dude?
Yeah. But it's amazing. People will tell you, oh yeah, I can't grow apples in my area. And I always tell them, you know what, go to your local orchard and find out what they're growing. And if they're growing it, that's what you should be growing. You should not be growing whatever Home Depot is selling or whatever you see in the grocery store. You should be growing what your local, and you'll find some fascinating. We went apple picking. My family went apple picking a couple weeks ago, and just absolutely wonderful flavor, texture, and not available at the grocery store.
Of course. And it is apple season, so I'm glad you brought that up. I actually have a friend with, 40 acres or something, and she's got apples coming out of everywhere. We'll keep it clean here, but so maybe we can talk about I know we're hitting up break here in about 30 seconds, but we can talk about some of the things that we can do with these overabundance of apples, or, maybe even how long they'll last.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
No rules. No rules. No taboo topics. No taboo topics. No fear of doom. No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
All right. Welcome back. Top of the second hour here tonight. Oh, man, and we are having too much fun here. Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. We are here with our gardening expert, Heather Rhoades of GardeningKnowHow.com, and it looks like the party just got started. In the text chat, as I mentioned earlier, the magic words to make your guys listen to gardening shows. So it looks like we've got okay, here we go. Oh, and squishy squash. All right, so the magic words for tonight, so you can have or pretend you're having fun while we are and you're not. We've got, let's see, apples equals Hooters, nightshade equals titties, radish equals whores, and, oops, what's the other one? Oh, sorry, where did it go? Oh, no, I lost it. Here we go. Squash equals squish. Okay, all right. I will try to remember that. So now you guys can have fun listening to boring gardening shows by replacing the first word with the other word. Of course, if you would like to join in the fun and in the text chat, that's over at souljourneysradio.com. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a call at 218-339-8525. That's 218-339-8525. Again, her website is gardeningknowhow.com. And woohoo! I don't know, Heather, can you keep up with that? Somebody came up late to the scene and they missed what you were wearing and everything.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. So I'm hearing you get that a lot, huh?
Well, I was telling you on break that I used to work as a receptionist, and there would be a couple clients who would call in just to hear me talk on the phone. So apparently, I have the type of a bedroom voice, I guess, would be the polite way to put it. So, but yeah, you know, I don't know. I'll share whatever I'm wearing.
All right. We've got our bedroom and gardening expert here, Heather Rhoades. Okay, so we left off talking about what to do with those overabundance of apples you may have falling off your trees, your neighbor's trees, or the local farm. So, yeah, Heather, what are some of the, and you know, you can use these for gifts too. That's what I've been doing, canning stuff. And
so we went apple picking, and I made apple butter. Apple butter's awesome, and you can do it in slow cookers, so it doesn't even require that much effort.
Nice.
You know, apple chips, or dried apples are great.
Ooh.
You know, put them in the oven, same as do your herbs. Put them in the oven, dry them out. They come out great. Apple pie, of course. You can put your apples in different types. You know, vodka. My mom makes something called apple pie drinks.
Ooh, or apple pie moonshine.
Right. Well, so, yeah, she makes. She just calls it apple pie, which doesn't quite indicate the alcohol in it. But she basically takes cinnamon sticks and apples and high proof alcohol and soaks it all together. So, and it does come out very tasty. It's a nice sipping drink. So.
Now, when you make the apple butter or the apple drinks or whatever, do we need to core them?
I would. We were talking about that earlier. There's apple seeds do contain cyanide in them. In small quantities, it's not going to hurt you. So you know, it's just to be on the safe side, especially if you're going to be giving it as gifts. It would be a good idea. I actually use a melon baller.
Unless you want to give them to gifts or give the gifts to like city council
family.
Or Congress or yeah, that's right, family. You know, the Nightshade family. Oh man. Okay, so you core them? Do you peel them?
I don't peel them myself. Again, it's like potatoes. I use, that's what I cut my apples in half, and I use a melon baller to take out the core so that you actually keep more of the apple intact.
There you go.
You know, so you're just taking out that little section with the seeds. And then I also have an immersion blender. So, you know, when I make an apple butter, that takes care of any apple skins that might be in there.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly if you're making vinegars or cordials with your apples, you don't need to remove the skins at all.
Okay.
So, I was trying to think what else have I made with, because we've made apple pies, little
cider.
I have never made cider myself. We buy it from the apple farms, but I've never made it myself. It's one of those things I've always been interested in trying to make. I mean, certainly I've juiced apples. You know, in the juicer for apple juice, but I've never actually, you know, gone through the process of making apple cider. Have you?
Okay. No, I have not. It just seems, you know, I have trauma from my first time making apricot jelly. So I have vowed to not be making any more fruit crap.
Well, I mean, apple actually is easy for jams and jellies and that sort of thing because it contains pectin.
It was the skinning and stuff that really, you know, and it was my first time. It was like 15 years ago. I didn't know how to do it. And people are like, okay, you got to peel them all. And they didn't tell me that if I could blanch them, that, you know, the peels would come off easier, or the fact that I didn't have to take them off at all. And yeah, just, oh man, it was a nightmare. But if I find an easy way to do it where I don't have to go through all that trouble, then I'd be more than happy to. One of my friends brought me a bag from a local farm, and they had just moved into the farm, and nothing was really maintained, and there were kind of lots of holes and everything in the apples, and I was thinking, yay, I'm going to make apple butter. I'm going to get over my fear and see if I can keep my fingertips this time. But when I looked at them, I'm like, nah, forget it. You're going in the juicer. So
well, that's what apple cider, what I always find interesting, apple cider is a way to use bad fruit. I don't think modern apple cider does this, but that's its original intention was the fruit that fell off the tree and got bruised, you'd use in cider.
Okay.
And then you would let it ferment so that it was alcoholic.
So that makes sense. I guess I don't know, that whole grocery store, the perfect plastic apple thing. It's, even now it's like, oh man, we have to make sure that looks perfect or I can't put it in my recipe, right? Or, and I could only put it in the recipes that I'm giving away to family. Oh, goodness. Okay, yeah, so I don't have any good cider recipes or anything at this point, but who knows? I'll try to do it. I did get some delicious apple butter. And most of my canning, because I'm still picking tomatoes, like literally dozens of tomatoes and peppers. So I've been cranking out the canned salsa and such. But, speaking of gifts, I mentioned before break, if you partake in giving out gifts during the season or, Christmas season or whatever. Last year we talked about, dried herbs or all these arrangements or soaking them in oil and vinegar or, apple butter, canned salsa, things like that. I mean, now's the time. You have that harvest, and if you are going to make, like an infused oil and or vinegar or tincture, any of those things, now's the time, because it's
They do need about 2 months to get to optimal flavor. So, if you're planning on making gifts for Christmas, you need to start putting those together now so that they can sit and really reach their full peak before you give them away.
Yeah.
So, I was my husband makes flavored bourbons for Christmas. So he took some of the figs off the fig tree and put them in the bourbon, and we'll do a couple of others from other things we've gotten from the garden.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that sounds quite tasty. I'm definitely not a bourbon drinker myself, but that actually sounds tasty. I like girly stuff, like
you can
Malibu and fresh orange and pineapple and grape juice or something like that. The stuff that tastes like Kool-Aid.
Yeah, well, that's what we've done. He's even tried a bacon bourbon. It didn't come out as good as it might sound like it would, but we've done, apple bourbon. We've done, kiwi. We tried kiwi. That didn't turn out very good either. Pineapple. That came out pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Your imagination when it comes to alcohols, and you don't have to do bourbon, vodkas, especially, I love making limoncello, and that's something you make with vodka, high proof vodka. Like I said, my mom makes what she calls apple pie, which is high proof alcohol with apples and cinnamon. So use your imagination.
She doesn't actually do like the moonshine. She doesn't make that. She just like soaks them in an alcohol that she got from someone else who made their own.
Well, we live in Ohio, so she lives in Cincinnati, so she crosses over into Kentucky, and she can typically get something that's about a 180 proof from stores in Kentucky.
Oh, so wow.
That's what she uses. The best we can get in Ohio is about 150, and even that's really hard to find. I know when I make my things, typically the best I can find is 100 proof. So, and I know that sounds like we're all like really luscious, but the higher proof alcohol is able to draw out the flavor better, and that's why you use the higher proof alcohol.
Definitely. And you have to drink less.
Yes.
Less calories.
You really want to get really drunk.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Okay, so those are really good gift ideas. Now, what about like oil and vinegar with herbs and garlic and stuff? What are the rules on that? Some people say that if you do the oil and vinegar, that you should refrigerate it because the oil is going to go bad. I don't know.
Vinegar,
is that
vinegar you don't have to refrigerate. Vinegar, that's why we make pickles, is because it doesn't go bad.
Mm-hmm.
So, you do want to heat it up for your initial put into the container, simply because the heat helps draw out the flavor. Oil is a little different. You do want to refrigerate that because it can go bad over time.
Like how long does I've never once had an oil go rancid in my life, and I'm talking. I used to run a cooking business out of my garage.
Months.
Okay, because in my cooking business, I would buy, 5 or 10 gallons of oil at a time, and one of them, I don't remember if it was peanut oil or something. After I quit my business, I still had the oil, and it lasted me another year or two. And
it's one of those things where you're talking months.
Mm-hmm.
You also don't know how long the oil you're buying has been on the shelf, and since you're giving it as a gift, you don't. So that's why. I mean, vinegar, you have no concerns. That can sit on the counter. You can sit on the counter for years, literally. That's the point of vinegar. It's been used for centuries as a preservative for foods.
So with the oil and vinegar combinations, we shouldn't have to worry about refrigerating?
I would, just because when you're introducing, the problem is when you're making an infused oil, you're introducing a foreign substance into that infused oil. And there's nothing in the oil that acts as a preservative. When you're working with vinegar or alcohol, there is something naturally in the liquid that acts as a preservative.
Okay.
It's going to kill it. It's going to kill any bacteria that's on your basil leaves or your oregano leaves or whatever you're putting in there. That's not the case with oils. And oil and vinegar doesn't mix. So you can force them to mix for a short period of time, but they're going to separate out eventually. So you're going to have half of your bottle that has an environment that's not friendly to bacteria, and half of your bottle that is kind of friendly to bacteria. And you're introducing something that you're not quite sure doesn't have bacteria in it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's where the problem comes in. Are the chances low that if you heat up your oil before you do it, which you're supposed to do anyway to get the flavor out? Are the chances low that that's going to happen? Yes, but it's still there. So it's kind of like eggs. The chances of you getting salmonella from eggs is pretty tiny.
Yeah,
but it can still happen. So
isn't that funny? We're worried about getting salmonella from eggs when I don't know anybody who's ever had salmonella ever, but we're not concerned about what the chemicals in the fake eggs, the liquid stuff are going to give us.
I am always amazed at people, people's food phobias when it comes to stuff like that, because there's been several articles, especially recently, about the Best By dates and that sort of thing on food. It's not a hard and fast rule. It's not. Yeah. It's just meant as a guideline, and you'll see people throwing out thousands of dollars worth of food simply because there's an arbitrary date on it. Yeah. And your body is able. You can smell a piece of meat and tell whether it's good or not.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. When it comes to canning and things like that, if you don't know that you have botulism in, your salsa or whatever it is you canned, and you eat it anyways, you probably deserve the repercussions.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
Welcome to the world's meeting place. American
It's practically narcotic.
Freedom
Oh, yes, I like very much.
Radio.
They're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
Okay, good. Yay! All right. Sorry, I'm having a little mic or mute issue with my new mic, and the light's not like blinking or it's like on constantly. So I don't know if I'm muted because I usually don't prefer to fart on the air. So I like it to kind of come in clean and hit the mute button, and then I got stuck. Where like, I can't remember if I pushed it or not or which way to go. So okay, I'm here. Welcome back. And we are talking about stupidity with food. And seriously, we were kind of talking during the break, and as I mentioned before, botulism and all this fear, with the canning or food preservation. Oh, you can't do that. It has to be at this temperature. You have to eat this or that before that date. And it's like, seriously, like if you had botulism, you would be able to smell it. You would be able to see it. I mean, has anybody opened a dented can from the store? I have. Some are perfect. Some of them did contain botulism. It was very easy to see, and I was just, when I was doing all the canning here in the last couple months, like with my tomatoes and salsa and things, I wanted to try a couple methods that I read everywhere, literally, don't do this, you're going to die. And, and there were plenty of people asking online, like me, can we can raw salsa? Do we have to use a water bath? Do we have to do all this? And no, you must only use the approved method. And so I went and canned raw salsa. And then I did a no-can method where you just, boil it for 30 minutes, stick it in the jars, and ping, ping, ping. It's just, so if it doesn't work, don't eat it, right? If you're afraid, don't eat it. But if there's seriously something wrong with it, you're going to know, most likely, before you get it to your mouth, right?
We have thousands of years of systems in our bodies to do this. I mean, refrigeration was only invented, 100 years ago, 150 years ago?
God,
I mean,
I know people that grew up without refrigeration. I know people right now that didn't have a refrigerator till like maybe 40 years ago. They're still here.
Right, and they didn't, and you use your nose, you use your mouth, you use your eyes, and you can, most of the time, 99% of the time, you can tell whether food has gone bad or not. And when we're talking about gifts, as we were earlier, you don't necessarily know if somebody you're giving a gift to can trust that particular instinct, and frankly, you don't want to give them something that they'd have to trust their instinct on that one.
We'll put a warning label on it. This gift may or may not self-destruct in the next 6 months, so please choose to use wisely.
There are certainly, I always find it funny, honey has a best by date. Honey is something that literally will last forever. They have found honey in ancient Egyptian pyramids that is still edible.
Yeah.
We have to
look at fermented foods. Somebody's bringing up on the chat fermented foods. Somebody mentioned sometimes rotten food is a cure. Hello, blue cheese, anyone? I mean,
right? Most of the time when you find cultures that have highly flavored foods.
Buttermilk,
Mexican,
speaking of culture.
well, so, yeah. It was Indian and Mexican culture, highly flavored foods. That's because they were rather poor countries, so their cuts of meat may have not have been the best in the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, that highly flavored was to cover rotten meat taste.
Yeah.
You know, and these people still survived. They did fine. You know?
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that, I'm not advocating that people go out and eat rotten meat, but no, I have friends who just freak out. You know, I go out in the garden and I pick my herbs and I bring them in, and they're like, "Oh my God!" You know?
Yeah. Oh my God, you're going to eat that?
It's dirty.
That's so funny. Oh, a dog might have peed on it. Okay, well, dog pee is definitely probably healthier than anything you bought in the grocery store.
And frankly, you know, what you get from the grocery store, it wasn't a dog that peed on it. It was probably an itinerant worker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not to mention there's this thing called water. It's kind of like, have you ever taken a shower? That crap that was on you before you went in is no longer on it. Guess what? Same thing happens with your herbs, your fruits, and veggies. And
it just blows my mind where people get. I get it all the time. People come over. I'll run out to the herb garden and, you know, trim some herbs for dinner, bring them in, give them a quick wash, and they're horrified. Horrified.
Yeah.
Like, I can't eat that. That stuff's dirty.
Oh my gosh. People really. I went to a dinner party and brought some salsa from my garden. They were making Mexican food, so it just worked out like perfect. I'm like, yay! This salsa will be perfect. And, you know, of course, the child and their child who invited me, you know, 20 and 40-year-old or something, they were just like digging it. But the parents and the other people were just like looking like, oh my God, you're going to eat that? And they open up their jar of paste picante.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even touch the fresh stuff. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's crazy what we've done to our food culture. And, you know, we were talking on the break. I've been to a lot of places in the world, and I've only gotten food poisoning once, and even then, I was with a large group of people who were from that country. We all got food poisoning together, and we probably should have known better in that particular situation.
Yeah.
Probably buying clams on the beach is probably not. But again, we should have known better. We should have known better at that time, logically.
Yeah.
But I have eaten street carts all over the world, and
yeah, I've eaten a few street carts, never got sick. I'll tell you what, my two food poisoning experiences was one, it was one of those late night things, you know, where you go out and have a couple drinks and you're starving and everything's closed, but your friend just happens to have like a Taco Bell burrito or something. I had 3 bites of that just to see, because I don't eat that kind of crap, and oh my God, I was sick for days, like 2 or 3 days after that. And then the other time I got pine nuts from Whole Foods in Pittsburgh, and those kept me in bed for like 3 days, but that's it. Never had food poisoning with, anything I've cooked, grown, or prepared in my own home. Just the approved methods, the packaged stuff or the stuff that people eat every day.
I cook every night. I cook everything from scratch. I'm big into that. I enjoy cooking. It's relaxing for me. Every night I cook from scratch. My children have never been ill from my practices of cooking. And I do not have separate cutting boards for meat and vegetables, I don't have,
And you actually eat pizza the next morning after it sits out on the floor.
Right. Well, I was telling you, we make pizza on Friday nights. We make it from scratch. My husband used to work in a pizza shop, so he knows how to do the whole tossing thing, and we make pizza, and then whatever's left over gets left on the counter, because if you put it in the refrigerator, it turns into a little rock.
Yeah,
left on the counter. My kids wake up Saturday morning and they have cold pizza for breakfast. Never been sick. And we had friends that came over and they were absolutely horrified. We're sure that everybody in the house was going to die. So.
That's funny. Yeah, it's crazy. I've heard people, say that about the pizza thing. Oh, if you leave it on the counter overnight, you're going to die and don't eat it. And, I might have fallen asleep once or twice with pizza there and eaten it in the morning. And again, I'm here. Doesn't mean I haven't killed a few brain cells here or there, but I'm here. Yeah, seriously, this fear stuff is just ridiculous. When I was reading the canning forums about raw salsa and no can canning methods, and people were just like freaking out. And I don't know if it's just one of those things to get us to buy more of their products, but look, the population has gone up and up and up and up and up all throughout these centuries or thousands of years or however long we've been here. Obviously, it's not that dangerous.
There is a culture, a marketing culture, a marketing creative culture where cleanliness is, above all. The past week, there was a woman who wrote an article about how she only bathes her infant about once every 2 weeks, and people were up in arms.
Mm-hmm.
But nutritionists actually recommend that.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because we're creating a culture now because we're so obsessed with cleanliness.
Yeah, clinical.
That we're destroying our immune systems. And pediatricians will tell you, and that you should only be bathing your child once every 1 to 2 weeks when they're infants. They're not getting that dirty, and when you're constantly washing them, not only are you taking away all of the bacteria that they need, but you're also taking all the oils away from their skins, and it can cause them more harm than good. And there's a lot of theories out there about that. That's why we're seeing an increase in allergies and asthma, is because our bodies simply aren't capable of handling our environment anymore because we're too clean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And because we don't have our own immune defense system working properly. We keep cleaning it off, the good bacteria, whatever. And yeah, I've heard, read, whatever. We're supposed to be playing in the dirt. But now we're like, oh my gosh, there's dirt on your fingernails, or oh my gosh, you're going to die. You can't touch your hands with that, or touch your mouth with that. And it's like, really? Dirt is minerals. We eat worm poop, people. That's where everything doesn't have to be that clinical. I know when I was that clinical and using all the products and antibacterial soaps and stuff, I was sick all the time.
Your body, Well, what people don't really realize is when you get sick in first world countries, typically when you get sick, you're actually not getting sick because of something that's dangerous. You're getting sick because your body doesn't recognize the particular bacteria that's invaded your body. It's not threatening your body. It's just your body doesn't recognize it. So therefore, it goes into high alert.
Yeah, and then starts attacking everything. Yeah. Right. This is foreign. It's not bleach.
Yeah, so the more foreign, healthy, or at least non-dangerous bacteria you get exposed to through eating foods, through just playing in the dirt, all of that, the less likely you are to be sick on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Yeah, loosen up, people. Get a little dirt, get a little dirty. And if you're worried that your jars didn't can properly or whatever, don't eat it. Pretty simple. It doesn't mean don't do it and live in fear and think you can't do it. I mean, your parents probably did. Your grandparents definitely did. And that's how you're here. People growing, making, preparing, preserving their own food without refrigerators, without chemicals, without preservatives, all these things that we think we need today to be clean and healthy.
Also, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, people didn't die from food poisoning. That's what always blows my mind.
Isn't that amazing?
They didn't die from food poisoning. They died from polio, which we have vaccines for. They died from a wide variety of now preventable diseases. They did not die from food poisoning. You don't hear of the great food poisoning epidemic of 1911 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. We heard of the potato famine. We heard of all
the potato famine, but that's that was them eating as it's just the potatoes stopped growing.
Well, exactly. So it has nothing to do with we didn't hear of the green potato death epidemic or something. We didn't hear any of that. So. Yeah, loosen up. And you know what? I'm sticking to my no-can canning method, and I'm sticking to canning raw salsa. If you don't like it, don't eat it. More for me. Woohoo. And to give to people who do appreciate it.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
News and information you can trust. This is American Freedom Radio. Freedom, American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight with Heather Rhoades of Gardening Know-How. .com. Pretty much probably every question you could ever think of has already been addressed on her site at gardeningknowhow.com, but just in case, her and another team of experts work full-time to answer your questions. So if you don't find it, just send them a message, click on the ask form or the contact form, and like everything from, sunflowers to lawn care, edible landscapes, projects for children, different types of diseases or environmental problems you might encounter. So again, that is gardeningknowhow.com, and we are blessed to have her here joining us once a month to answer your questions. And I was going to share before we went to the break. This is kind of weird. I had a dream, that infamous, that canning pop, that pop, that ting. I love that ting. It's such a cute little sound. But I didn't know that when it unseals, it makes the exact same sound. So in my dream, I heard these pings, these tings, these pops, whatever they are. And I swear to you, the next day, while I was standing in the kitchen, one of them unpopped. Isn't that crazy? I don't know. It was cool, but I didn't really know what to do. I'm like, oh man, that sucks. I just lost a jar of salsa or whatever. So I just stuck it in the fridge thinking, well, when I'm ready to eat salsa again, I'll open it up and smell it and see if, maybe the bacteria got in there or something. But we were kind of talking during the break how the canning process works, and it seals as it pushes out the hot air. And, I did learn that sometimes if, you're canning and you keep all your jars together, say in front of the heater, it'll take longer. But as, it's surrounded by cold air and nothing around it, they seal a little bit sooner. But I don't know, have you or anyone listening or anyone on the chat ever encountered a situation like that? And if so, what does it mean? Am I going to kill myself?
I don't personally can. My mom did. I want to say fond memories, but they're really not of canning with my mom as a kid. And if if it popped soon after we sealed it, that meant that the seal wasn't complete, and yeah, you just eat it right away. But if it popped, say, a couple weeks or longer after you sealed it, then that meant that it had been infected with bacteria, and the bacteria had produced enough gas to unseal the container. So that's just what I know from growing up. I have no scientific evidence behind that. That's just what I was told as a girl. So
I guess I'll just eat it and see what happens. Yeah,
I mean, it sounds like it
smell it first.
Yeah, it sounds like it popped soon after you sealed it. So
it was like a week or more later.
Yeah, and my mom would have said that it just didn't seal properly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and eat it. If you're looking at a month, if you canned everything in the summer and then you go down in January and the lids popped, she would have said at that point in time that it had been infected and you need to get rid of it. So
yeah. Okay, and they're asking on the chat, was it a boiled container or the alternative method? And it was actually the one that I boiled, so that was weird. But, oh well, anyways, I will smell it before I dive in, and I'll report back. But, you know what? We have a question. I don't know if it's a serious question. I honestly think he's flirting with you, because the first one, are there swollen and purplish plums? Okay for what? I don't know. Just a question. Want to go for a drink? I
don't think my husband would appreciate me going for drinks with anyone asking about swollen and purplish plums.
I'm sure he'll buy for you and your husband, but
I would actually have to say, if this is a legitimate question, and you're having some problems with your plums, there are some diseases that can do that. I would need to see a picture. So if you visit us at gardeningknowhow.com, ask us a question through the email. It'll tell you, and you can send us a picture. And
of
we
course, you could just go to swollenandpurplish.com.
Yeah. I have to answer every one of these questions as though they're legitimate.
That's right. You done good. I'll tell you what. You made it to the Hall of Fame when Louis B. called in with the banana bush in New York. In fact, we just did get a question from a newfie. So, again, forgive him. In regards to bananas, he was asking, is there a variety of a banana tree that will grow in Newfieville?
Newfieville, well, it depends on what zone Newfieville is in.
Newfoundland.
I'd say there are hardy bananas. Mm-hmm. They typically do not produce fruit.
That's true. We have somebody here, I actually know them. They have banana plants, and they put them out every spring and pull them back in every fall. They do not produce bananas, but you do have the beautiful foliage.
Right. So, I mean, again, I'd have to know what the zone is to be able to say whether or not you could grow a banana there. But typically, guessing from Newfoundland, it's going to be colder. You're looking at a hardy banana, and they won't produce fruit, but you can grow them. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the answer to your next question, swollen and purplish plums with green discharge, that's called gonorrhea. So I'm not sure that Heather addresses that at her site.
If you told me it was a clear discharge, I could have told you that sounds like, peach leaf curl, which can affect all stone fruit. So.
She's got
this is actually
everything.
a real problem with stone.
Oh my gosh, you're so great. Oh, I'm still laughing at the banana bush thing. Well, if you do flood your garden with something like malt liquor and chicken bones, that's classic.
Every question is though it's legitimate, just in case.
That's right. Like the potato bugs. But, Oh, man. Okay, so here we are. We are having too much fun, and we are almost, at the end of the show already here. So this fall cleanup and all of this stuff we're doing right now, you know what, Heather? I'm going to let you choose the most important thing to share with us in the remaining 2 minutes of the show tonight.
Well, I would say that this time of year, it's time for cleanup. You need to be careful about what you're composting this time of year. If you had any disease problems in your garden, burn it all. Trash it. Do not compost it. If you had disease problems with, or even pest problems, same thing. Mm-hmm. Get rid of it. Don't compost it, and because you don't want to invite that disease and pest back into your garden for next year.
Yeah.
Okay, so what if we have like squash bugs or cucumber beetles or harlequin bugs or something like that? If we compost that, does that mean that the bugs are going to reproduce there and then join us the first sun in spring?
That is possible, yes.
Okay. All right. So burn it.
Yeah, if you had a pest problem or a disease problem, burn it, or throw it away, either one. But don't compost it. Don't reintroduce it to your garden. Certainly, you do want to do a cleanup, because if you don't do a cleanup, you're giving disease and pests a place in your garden where it can survive, and that's not something you want to do. So make sure you clean it up. Think about the amendments you want to add. So if you have your soil tested, this is a great time of year to have your soil tested. Add in, if you're going to be using fresh manure, this time of year is a great time to work in the fresh manure, so it has some time to mellow before your spring planting.
Poo-poo! Poo-poo!
Yeah.
Hey, I got a cool story about squash bugs, by the way, in regards to burning them. I don't know if any other animal or insect does this, but when we took out the vines to burn them, due to the squash bug population I gave up on, normally when there's a fire, people, bugs, whatever, run away from it. The squash bugs actually run towards it. Go towards the light. So I don't know if you're one of those people that think it's really cool to see things be tortured and get burned up. Burn your vines with squash bugs on it and watch them run towards the light.
And then run around your garden with salt shakers.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
You're listening to the future of talk. American Freedom Radio. This is American Freedom Radio.